I recently started reading your colleague Bill Biersach's Father Baptist series.
Well,
Oops.
well, yes, The Endless Snot, a 20 hanky book.
Yep, first book in the series. And Father Baptist, the main character, says venial sins are washed away by holy water.
Well,
I've never heard this. And when I Googled it, found contradictory information.
that may be.
Is this true?
It is true.
If so, do you still need to confess the venial sin?
If it's in your mind, I mean, look, ladies and gentlemen, we all perform a ton of venial sins all the time, and just as quickly forget about them. You don't have to confess them precisely because you'll forget about them, but they get wiped away with holy water. However, if a venial sin is in your head when you go into the confessional, yeah, sure, it's obviously bothering you, or you wouldn't remember it, so confess it. And actually, and again, this is terribly pre-Vatican II, and it's not in the 83 Code of Canon Law. Jazz hands. Anyway, what? Oh, I can't do jazz hands.
You can do jazz hands.
It's Christmas. I want to do jazz hands.
Okay, there we go.
Anyway, this is, all like this in this company. Anyway, seriously, the idea of confessions of devotion is something we've lost. All right. The fact of the matter is that when you go to confession and you rehearse your sins every week, even though they're not mortal, it does help you in your general program of improvement in many, many ways. It means, if nothing else, that you're in a state of grace longer than you would be otherwise, more often than you would be otherwise. A state of justification, of being completely free of any sin at all. Even if it's only for only 5 or 10 minutes after you get out of the confessional and you remember how annoyed you are at your kid. But that is an important thing. Also, frequent confession gives you added strength in resisting temptation. What do I mean by that? Well, a half or a quarter of the time, if you know you're going to be going to the confession on Saturday, do I really want to do that? Do I really want to talk to Father so-and-so about that on Saturday? Nah. And believe it, the more you do it, the easier it becomes to resist sins. It never becomes easy, but it becomes easier. To answer the question anyway, yeah, holy water will get rid of your venial sins, which is why it's so important, and why it's so horrible, for instance, for churches to get rid of it during Lent. That's a terrible thing to do to their people. If nothing else, they're still expecting the same amount of money in the collection box and yet cutting down on the service. But that having been said, if a venial sin is in your head when you go to the confessional, yeah, confess it, sure. Well, why did it stick in your head? It bothers you, so get rid of it, dump it. You're never going to remember all your venial sins, so don't worry about them. Use your holy water, go to confession, and relax. Try to be a good person.
On the topic of avoiding sin to avoid confession, I said this before. Christmas time, I sin a lot less because sin is met with real punishment. Mega long confession lines.
Oh yeah.
Isn't that funny how that works? Christmas season and Lenten season, and just the time before Easter.
Yeah.
It's like, gosh, is this sin really worth it? Because then I have to
go through the line.
have to really go through the line.
Yeah, hang out with the old ladies who sort of camped in there.
Yeah.
You know something's wrong when you smell brewing tea coming from the confessional.
Yeah.
Grandma's not coming out for a while. So.
Yeah. What was the other thing you said? Oh, you're right. The holy water wiping away the venial sin. That's really cool. I think a lot of people have never heard that before. I know I've never heard that before. Where did you get that from?
Well, I mean, gosh, where didn't I get it from? It's something I've been taught all my life. I believe it's in the Baltimore Catechism, actually.
Wow.
I could be wrong, though. Remember, I'm doing this without a net, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yes.
So if I'm factually incorrect, you needn't write in, aha, he's wrong. Just say, I checked it and it's not so. Feel free to do that. But if you get glee out of catching me out, you got to go to confession because you've got a venial sin. So I could be mortal if you really hate my stinking guts. Well, it's true.
Okay.
It's terrible to hate another human being. You know, they hate me because I'm beautiful. You know that.
Yes.
Self-delusion is the key to positive thinking, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm really deluded in this area. No, anyway, seriously. It's Christmas magic. What can I say? No, seriously. It is something that I've heard all my life. And I remember reading a little pamphlet in my church book rack. You see, in the old days, back when there were a lot of Catholic companies, religious orders and so on, putting out information because like they wanted people to know about every aspect of the faith. You know, because like it was important and stuff back then. A lot of churches would have these huge pamphlet racks. They would have lots of pamphlets on them, telling you about all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate in going to Blessed Sacrament Hollywood because their pamphlet rack was like a bloody library. Anyway, one of the things I picked up there was a little leaflet called Holy Water, a Means of Spiritual Wealth, which went into great detail, was imprimatur for those of us who are fond of canon law. You know, went into great detail. But I mean, it didn't tell me anything I hadn't already heard, but it was fun to see it all in one place.
Okay.